So coming out of President Trump's Liberation Day speech in the Rose Garden, what do we know now about his approach to tariffs? So first, there will be a 10% universal tariff on all countries around the world. There's also going to be more tariffs. There will be a reciprocal tariff program with higher rates. And I will say that these rates are higher than we were expecting. So for example, China is going to get hit with a 34% additional tariff rate on top of the existing tariffs. Europe is going to get hit with a 20% tariff rate.
Great, so Emily just talked about what we do know, but there's still lots of questions that we don't know. So one big question for me is, how exactly is the math on all these tariffs going to add up? So the real question is, are all these various different tariffs that Trump has already announced additive to the new reciprocal and universal tariffs announced today? For example, we already have the 25% auto tariffs that are hanging out there set to take effect today. Are those going to be additive to these tariffs? So meaning if Japan has a 24% reciprocal tariff, does that mean Japanese autos effectively have a 49% tariff adding on that 24 plus 25%? I think that's how it works, but again, it's not really clear exactly how it adds up. Similarly, we got the fentanyl tariffs hanging out there on Canada and Mexico, which are again delayed and it seems that's going to continue. But the China fentanyl tariffs of 20% to date, are those additive to the reciprocal tariffs announced today? We think so, but still, the devil will be in the details of how all this actually adds up together. And I think, if you are a trade compliance officer, a customs logistics person, you're going to be very busy over the next coming weeks. Again, these tariffs are set to take effect quite soon, later this week, early next week. So going to be real scramble to figure out what exactly is the tariff rate on every good going to every country, given this complicated new system Trump announced today.
So what are some of the big takeaways from today's announcements? First, Canada and Mexico came out pretty well. So there's an existing agreement in the ongoing North America trade war, which seems to be holding here, which is, of course, they've gotten hit by a lot of tariffs for fentanyl-related reasons, for auto-related reasons. But broadly speaking, Canada and Mexico are going to be able to get some comfort today that the agreement that they have with the Trump administration for goods that are compliant with USMCA to be exempt from the larger 25% tariffs that were already imposed, that agreement will stick. So that's relatively good news for those two countries. It's also a good sign for foreign governments who are trying to figure out if they can negotiate new deals with the Trump administration. It looks like that one North America agreement is holding, at least for now, and so for those looking to negotiate, perhaps that's a sign that they better get to the negotiating table soon and get their own deal with the Trump administration. Lastly, there was no talk today, at least, about some of the hot-button security issues. So we didn't hear any of the 51st state comments about Canada. We didn't hear anything about, wanting to annex Greenland. That certainly has been part of the trade conversations in the past. It wasn't today. Don't know how much to read into that, but I think perhaps a promising signal that some of that rhetoric was de-escalated for the purposes of today's announcement.
All right, now that Trump has made the big announcement, what happens next? The next move is really going to be, how do other countries respond here? So we've already seen several statements coming out from other countries about how they intended to respond. Again, probably many countries were not actually expecting it to be quite this high, so they may be reevaluating some of their plans. I think we can expect many countries will retaliate. They have certainly signaled as much so far. But the question is, after that initial retaliation, is there a deal space to move into negotiations? Emily mentioned a moment ago, Canada and Mexico seem to have done pretty well. There's a framework here for negotiated deals being off-ramps from this big new reciprocal tariff program. Is that a model that other countries are able to follow? Maybe on that point, I'll just close by noting, here at CNAS, we just ran a tariff war game that was written up in the New York Times early this week, examining this exact question. How are countries going to respond to a big reciprocal tariff program from the United States? One interesting finding we found there is that there actually was some deal space, some willingness of other countries to negotiate with the US and to get to pretty good negotiated deals. Again, it's complicated. This is a very risky move, undoubtedly, by the United States. There's going to be some real significant short-term economic pain here, both for the United States and for our trading partners. But what I'll really be watching is this the first move towards actually getting to a new set of negotiated deals, or is this really the United States putting up a tariff wall that is going to have deep and lasting consequences on the US economy?